This has been for many generations the most heralded record in baseball because home run, chicks dig the long ball, and also. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Sports Card Aesthetic, where we look at cards and talk about how pretty
or not pretty
they are. I'm Tyson, sports card enthusiast.
I'm Emma, sports card unenthusiast.
And with that, let's look at some cardboard. Okay, Emma, today I was inspired. Last week we did our Pujols hitting 700 home runs, so we looked at our Pujols card. This week I thought it was fair to also look at another home run milestone in a different way. So as you're probably aware, Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees hit 62nd home run, which breaks the American League home run record. We'll leave it to the internet to decide whether that breaks the all-time season home run record or not. But do you know who had the home run records before Aaron Judge? I bet you do.
Hank Aaron?
No. No. So prior to Aaron Judge, it was Roger Maris with 61 home runs in 1961, also a Yankee. And before that, it was Babe Ruth. Do you know who that is?
I do.
Good. 1927, 60 home runs. So instead of looking at an Aaron Judge card, I thought we would look at his predecessors in the home run king category and look at a Babe Ruth card of my choosing and a Roger Maris card also of my choosing.
Well, I didn't choose him, that's for sure.
You didn't choose him, no. You have never seen these cards. So the first card we're going to go to, I want to talk about the card, or no, I'm going to have you tell you what the card is, first impressions, and then I'll give you some history about what we're looking at, okay? Mm-hmm. So this card, we're going way back in time, further back in time than you've ever been on this series anyway.
In life. I've traveled back in time.
We're going back to the Depression era. So 1933, Goudey Babe Ruth. Are you ready to go back in time? And then we'll go back to the future. Okay, anyway, enough of that. Are you ready? 1933, Goudey Babe Ruth. And here we go. As the card states George Herman Babe Ruth.
That's funny. I never even knew that was his name.
That was his name, George Herman Ruth, yep. So take a minute and waft in the Sultan of SWAT was his nickname. One of his many nicknames. Okay, give me your initial thoughts and then I'll give you some historical context.
Yeah.
Very famous baseball card.
Well, yeah, I guess I would assume so, just considering it's Babe Ruth. So a few things. I mean, the first thing that I noticed was the expression on his face, which he looks a little consternated.
Consternated?
A little concerned, a little tired, maybe. He looks like he is wearing pajamas.
I do notice that with this card, he's got the classic Yankee pinstripes on.
It's very washed out.
But the way it is, it does look very pajama-y. Uh-huh. You don't see the Yankee logo anywhere.
Mm-hmm. I think that if the card didn't have his name on it, I would guess that's Babe Ruth. Like he's very,
got a unique look to him.
He's very Babe-like.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that the Babe is in parentheses, so I guess this must be an early card.
Yeah, so just a bit about the card. So 1933 Goudey. Goudey was actually a chewing gum company.
Well, I'm wondering about why this is chewing gum.
And of course, many youngsters of the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s grew up with baseball card packs, including chewing gum in the pack. Mm-hmm. My dad would often say a lot of times they bought the cards just to kind of have the chewing gum, and then they just have these, sports cards hanging around that they play with. So from my reading, I think this was the first card set that included gum, because it was really more of a vehicle to sell gum, I think, than to actually sell sports cards. So as you see,
Goudey was the gum brand?
Goudey was a gum company that then got into the sports card business. Yeah.
So I wonder, did like Wrigley do the same thing? Is that why Wrigley is a field name, or?
Well, I don't think they're a sports card company that I know of.
Oh, so there was never this like package of gum sports card. And
Oh, maybe Wrigley was a gum company that then got into sports.
That's what I'm saying.
In a different way, maybe.
I'm saying is the reason there's a field named after Wrigley gum is because they also sold packs of gum with sports cards in them.
Yeah, I don't know the history, but that's possible. So you've got this famous gum company who then gets into sports cards, and then this becomes one of the iconic sets of,
so I do have a question.
Baseball cards. Yeah.
So do you think? I mean, maybe you don't know this, but was that were there any such things as sports cards before they were being sold as like these things that just come?
Yeah, I mean there were sports cards. You're getting a little bit above my head in terms of the historical knowledge, but this is sort of. I think this sets off a new age in sports cards.
But this isn't how sports cards originated in gum packs.
No, there were forms of sports cards before this, yes. Okay. So, yeah, so you mentioned the look on his face, which is something I've never looked at closely until you just mentioned it, because there's other things that just pop to me.
It's kind of going like, ugh.
To me, it almost looks like forlorn, like he's looking at the great love of his life walk away or something, and he's, it's like, shoot, I wish I could go catch up to her, but I'm stuck in this baseball game. But yeah,
like, almost like leaning back like he's watching something walk away, or like he missed a taxi or something.
Yeah. So we'll get back to the card, but given that you wanted to focus on his face first, this is like the 52 mantle. It's a sort of colorized version of a photograph that was taken. Okay. So here is the photograph that it's based on. Oh. And it's kind of hard to see there, but he does have a little bit. In this photograph, it looks more like he's got that look because it's like maybe the sun's in his eyes a little bit.
Well, and he looks more like he's swinging too. He looks like he's actually like working on the field. Like he's mid-stride. Isn't he practicing a swing?
Yeah, it looks like he's just taking.
His legs are twisted around.
This is the end of a swing.
Yeah, so
he was a left-handed hitter.
It looks like he's kind of like, and he's kind of like. But in the other one, it just kind of looks like he's just like, when's this car coming?
When there's a lack of context, then it.
Yeah, it really does change how he looks when you don't have the context of the rest of his body in it.
And on this picture, you can kind of see the New York Yankee symbol on the hat.
Yeah.
Whereas
you don't see that on the
on the other one, and I don't know if that had to do with some sort of brand or licensing issue.
Yeah, that is interesting that he just looks like a postal worker just wearing.
But that does make it a little bit look more like he's got like pajamas and he's just wearing his day cap or something.
I do love though how aren't baseball caps then just shaped differently? They're kind of like these small cell caps. That is just the shape of that, isn't it?
Yeah, a little more. They're much more structured today. So okay, so you're kind of, it sounds like, I don't know where you stand on the actual how he looks, but just aesthetically, what do you think about this card?
So yeah, and a couple other things I'm noticing is it again. So we've got it's zoomed in. So now we know cropped from that photo, and the end of the bat is cut off, and just the very edge of his hand is cut off.
But I like the way they zoomed in, and I think it's yeah, you're right. I think that the way that his head and his hands are in places where it doesn't make it too symmetric, but it's not cutting off anything super important.
Yeah, there's just a little bit. It's a little bit odd how it's laid out because of the asymmetry of the photo. So then he's kind of all on the right side of the card, and then the text they put up at the top. So it leaves a big chunk of the middle of the card just open to the yellow. So the yellow is very prominent.
Yeah.
Like that's a.
I mean, to me, I'm surprised that is to me the overwhelming feature of this card and of this whole series. So I think one of the interesting things about the Goudey 9330 cards are they have all these big pops of very bold backgrounds, which doesn't feel like, I didn't live in the 1930s, obviously, but that seems like an interesting choice for the era. That seems almost more like, modern art from the 50s or 60s or something. That type of artistic choice.
Just have a plain, very bright color like that?
Yeah, just such a color. You don't like that?
Are you saying you like that?
I love the yellow background of this card. I think it makes it very unique. You're not into that?
I don't know. I guess it just looks a little bit washed out to me. Like it's just because the red is a little bit. I don't know. I don't mind the red, but maybe it is just that the pinstripes on his jersey is so washed out, and then to have the yellow background, it's very like overpowering yellow.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of looks like he's wearing makeup. Doesn't he look like he's got like blush on the
cheeks?
Yeah.
Well, that's the colorization of black and white photograph. Yeah, so maybe they overdid it on the rosy cheeks there.
Too much rouge on the babe.
I love the bottom, just big league chewing gum. I mean, that's like baseball cards to me. Like that couldn't be any more. Yeah. If you were like to just create like, what do I think one of the first baseball cards look like? You put big league chewing gum on there.
Yeah, I do like that. I like that because it's so naive capitalism that it's like it can just say what the product is without telling us what the brand is.
Yeah.
It's like just trying to sell chewing gum.
It's not trying to be like, telepathic. Yeah.
It's like buying a pack of batteries that just says batteries on it.
Yeah. Something just sort of naive and timeless about saying George Harmon and then in parentheses Babe
like
Ruth,
the parentheses.
as if like no one knows like that's his nickname.
Yeah, I wonder why they chose parentheses rather than quotes.
I don't know. So you seem kind of iffy on this card. I was hoping you would be more excited about this layout.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I think it's so just simple and it just. I like the Big League Chew. I like the George Herman Ruth. I think it's appropriately centered. I wish that we had the Yankee logo on the cap. That would maybe be the one thing. And maybe if you saw a Yankee logo on the jersey, so it didn't look quite so pajama-like he just woke up to, make himself a piece of toast or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's something about it though. Like I don't.
This is not connecting with you, I can
Well,
tell.
there's just something about it that I do really appreciate, the simplicity and also just the really like classic baseball, like the naivety of the Big League chewing gum, I don't know, there's something I'm just not loving about like the asymmetry of it, and maybe part of it is the parentheses of Babe.
It's I mean, he's not like perfectly centered, but I actually think the card is like perfectly balanced.
I think, but I think what's bothering me is how much open space the yellow is taking up, and his hand is not quite fitting on the card. So I guess I don't like that it's the way that it's taken the photo out of context. Because it does, that's all we see then, and then what all we see is Babe Ruth looking like kind of tired, and it's kind of unclear like what he's.
I mean, you definitely focused in on the way his face looked, which is definitely not the thing that I focused on when I first looked at this card. I think I do look at the overall balance of how things are composed, and I think the card is weighted perfectly, even though. Yeah, his hands are a little bit out, but...
What is the little stamp in the corner?
I think that just says 1933 on the bottom. The top probably is some version of the Goudey company, I think. I'm not sure. Okay, we'll come back to this card. I want to go to a Roger Maris card, and I had several to choose from, but I actually came across a new card that I had never seen before that I thought was interesting. So it's 1962 Topps. It's actually the year after he broke the home run record. And it's not the base card from 1962 Topps. It's kind of a special card. I don't know if this would be considered an insert card or not.
Insert card?
Meaning a sort of special card that's not part of the base set. Okay? So I think you'll understand after I show you the card. But let's take a look at this 1962 Topps Maris Blasts 61 card. Take a look at that.
Maris Blasts 61st.
Yeah, so this is...
Oh, so it's like a news headline.
This is, yeah, so it's like a news from...
Like extra, Maris Blasts 61st.
That's right. That's right. So my picture's a little bit... it's probably a little bit not as bright and colorful as the actual card is, but... What do you think of that card? And I'd never seen this card until about an hour ago.
Oh, really?
And I thought this was a very interesting card.
Well, so yeah, I mean, I've looked at it for about 5 seconds now, and there's something about it that excites me.
Oh, really? You're excited? What excites you about Maris Blast 61?
It's exciting. It's a newsflash.
Yeah.
It's a newsflash, and I assume we're being shown him doing it right there.
Yeah,
unless this is a big giant lie.
Yeah. I have no reason to think that this is not. I mean, we know for a fact that the home run was videotaped, so I'm assuming there are lots of photographs or cameras on him. So I have no reason to believe that this was not the actual pose. But
I mean, there's something about the concept of a card commemorating a moment and actually having that is actually really interesting to me, because I would think that if you're into sports, like that's like, why would you want it disconnected from what's actually happening in the...
And it's something about sports cards that I've always been a little bit weirded out by, is that we collect rookie cards and we collect these cards, but cards like this never have taken off. And I think they're cool. I like cards that commemorate specific moments, especially when they're of the time. Now, sometimes you'll get like a card commemorating a moment from like 40 years ago. That's not as cool to me. Like if it's of the moment,
if it comes out like when it happens,
is just the next year.
Yeah.
And of course, the main thing about this card is you're getting 4 images.
Yeah. Okay. So there's
that's what's cool.
So it's the 4 image thing. So we're getting a breakdown of the video of it. The film reel of it.
This is beyond an action shot. This is like Walt Disney trying to almost show you like a cartoon strip of the
like
home
flip
run.
It and you can see him doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you get the first shot. You get a nice big shot of the number 9, which is of course iconically Roger Maris's number.
I really like the final shot too, where he's swung all the way around.
And it looks like he's hit the ball and he's actually looking at it.
Yeah.
You can see his face kind of pointing up there a little bit.
Yeah, and so the other thing that struck me about this, so in addition to the 4 images, but there's so much tan in this. This looks so early 60s to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
like a wooden frame, like
it's kind of the wooden frame. Like he's kind of wearing beige. The dirt of the diamond is kind of washed out beige. There's like a kind of brownish beige border.
It's like sepia toned.
It's not quite sepia.
It's like not quite, but it's like you're looking, like an old photograph. Basically.
It does just look very 60s, and the kind of almost Comic Sans font of the Maris Blast 61st seems very 60s.
I love that. I love that.
Like this looks like he probably went out to like a Polynesian tiki bar after this to celebrate it.
The exact same thing. The wooden border looks like some like 1950s tiki bar in somebody's basement.
Like somebody get this man a Mai Tai.
Maris Blast 61 and has a Mai Tai. I like the word blasts. That also feels like
they're just trying to be like, this is super cool. Like he blasted that.
Yeah. It's like a 1960s newspaper trying to be like cool. Yeah.
I almost like that they're trying so hard to sell this. Like they're like telling you that it's cool that he did it, and then given that they actually are showing it, and it's so simple how they've just presented it there, like just the 4 pictures. I'm like, okay, I guess that is pretty cool.
And to me, I know this is probably a little bit of a stretch, but the 4 pictures reminds me of like art by like Andy Warhol of the same era.
Yeah.
I know it's different. Like he did the silk screening with he would probably just have the same image 4 times in different silk screen colors.
Yeah.
But doesn't this kind of remind you of that?
Well, it's like the inverse Andy Warhol then. So it's like different images but the same color.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite.
But like I said, I know that's a bit of a stretch, but that is what reminds. And I don't.
But there is something 60s about the look of that. It's almost like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, that's also
He's
true.
his own Brady Bunch.
I don't immediately remember ever seeing a card that does this. But so do you like this card?
I really like this card.
I do too. Okay, Emma, now we're going to go back to the 1933 Goudey Babe Ruth to get your formal rating. And for anyone who's new to this YouTube series, Emma rates the cards from 1 to 100 pretties, in honor of the title that you wanted to call this YouTube series, which was...
Pretty Sports Cards.
Pretty Sports Cards, which I vetoed that. I apologize. I'm sure that's what everybody wanted except me. So 1 to 100 pretties, 1933 Goudey Babe Ruth. What do you think? Take another gander at that yellow card.
I do feel bad not
You've
liking.
had some time to think about this.
I've had significant time. I feel bad that I don't love this card.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate it.
You feel ashamed.
I feel very ashamed. I want to like it more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
There are things about it that I like.
That's what his face is telling us. He wants to be loved, and you just won't do it.
That's a why don't you just love me face. I mean, I like the simplicity. I love how it dates the naivety of the card, the big league chewing gum. Mm-hmm. Actually, now that I think about it, like it's funny that they are selling chewing gum with it because weren't all the players? Wouldn't they have been chewing tobacco?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah. I don't know when chewing tobacco could be. Maybe it was ever since the dawn of baseball. I don't know. That's for another day.
So I like that. I like the simplicity. I think that they've zoomed in on his from a photograph and zoomed in a way that takes away the context and really actually changes what his expression looks like. Mm-hmm. And in a negative way, because it's not a. And it's not an uninteresting expression. I think that it is actually from him like practicing swinging. Like that's what he looks like when he's come around the swing. So like I think that.
But with the yellow background and without the context, you think he looks maybe like a mailman or something.
Yeah, like a cab driver or something. Yeah. So which is not terrible.
With a cab hat.
not that there's anything wrong with that.
Okay. So 1 to 100 pretties. Tell old Babe what you think about his famous Goudey card. It wants to be loved when it's merely liked.
58.
58. Okay. So that's the most sort of even Steven kind of rating you've given a card yet. So you see that.
Well, it's over 50. It's got over 50 pretties. Okay. There's bulk in there. Like it's got quality. There are merits, but it's not in the upper tier.
Okay, 58. That 58 pretties for the 1933 Goudey Yellow Babe Ruth. Guys, if you like this video, please subscribe, drop a comment if you agree or disagree with our takes. I'd love to hear what some of you here think about the Roger Maris card, which I had never seen before until recently. And we'll catch you on the flip side.